Welcome to today's session. Thank you for joining us today. You're joining a Creative Futures session today. And for those of you who've joined us before, as you'll know, this is a time when we're inviting guest speakers in from different creative roles and different creative industries to talk to us a little bit about the roles that they do so that we can see what it's like, in this case, to be product designers. And to share a few insights really as to how they got into their roles and how they became successful. So as you can see, we've got two guest speakers today. I think we'll perhaps start with a few introductions. So just quickly introducing myself for those of you who don't know me. My name's Lisa Law. I'm one of the careers staff here at the university, and I'm linked to arts and humanities subjects. I'm joined today by Claire. Claire, do you just want to say hello?
Hi everyone, I'm Claire Buckerfield. I'm Public Engagement Coordinator for the Faculty of Arts, Business and Social Sciences, and I work on lots of our public-facing events, including Artsfest, which you may already know me from.
Brilliant, thanks Claire. And our guest speakers today are Will Morris and Amber Davies. So welcome to you both. Do you want to just say hello quickly, quick introduction, is that okay?
Yeah, sure. So hi everyone, I'm Will Morris, I'm a product designer and I'm also an ex-student of University of Wolverhampton studying product design, and I graduated in 2015.
Hi everyone, I'm Amber, I'm a product designer. I trained in product design, but here at Horton Design I kind of do a split between the user-centred and front end of the design process, as well as some of the marketing and business development activity.
Brilliant. Thank you to you both. Before we start hearing a little bit more about your roles and your go into your presentation, just a little bit of housekeeping so everybody knows how things will work today. Will and Amber will do a presentation and there will be time for questions as well. If you have a question, then what you need to do is hover over your Zoom toolbar. You'll see a Q&A function and you can type your question to Will and Amber, and then we'll pick those up afterwards after the slides have finished. We will have the chat open as well, and that's so that we can post some information to you depending on what is spoken about today. I do see that there's some messages already in the chat from the people that are watching, and Will and Amber, the students are saying welcome and thank you for giving us your time today. We are recording today's session as well, and that's so that we can share this afterwards and you can watch it again and others can watch it as well. This is a public platform, so just a quick reminder not to share anything that's sensitive or confidential. So I think that's it in terms of housekeeping. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Will and Amber. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much for that. So yeah, as Lisa mentioned, we've got a short presentation prepared. Hopefully it will only last for about half an hour, and then we can open the discussion up to a larger Q&A at the end, where hopefully you guys will have some interesting questions for us, and hopefully we can answer all of them, and we'll try our best anyway. So yeah, I'll share my screen. So 2 seconds. Okay. All right. So yeah, as previously mentioned, this is a short presentation. It's just a general introduction into the world of design and engineering from two people that work at a design consultancy, a relatively local design consultancy called Horton Design, based in Staffordshire.
Yeah, so we've already done brief introductions, I guess. I don't know if there's anything extra you want to add, Will, to yours.
Yeah, I suppose I can sort of describe myself a little bit more in more detail. So yeah, similar to Amber, I'm a product designer by training, but my title is actually design engineer and business development. At Horton Design, I'm predominantly, in general terms, a product designer, And then the engineering is the hardcore sort of engineering and mechanical design is done by our colleagues. But we sort of try and play to our strengths at HD. So I'm really interested in all things sustainability and the circular economy. So I'm trying to push that forward for the business and for our clients that we work for. So trying to continually motivate clients and drive them forward to deliver sustainable products. But alongside that, I'm working with Amber and the rest of the guys in the team regarding business development activities. So talking to clients early on, getting them on board, becoming the client's sort of associated design partner. And then I've also got some experience historically and through HD and growing my skills with regards to design for manufacture, which is a really, really important skill to have as a designer. You know, that's come from about 8 years worth of engineering experience.
Yeah, so similar to Will, I studied product design, but I studied in Cardiff Met. I graduated not so long ago in 2020, so this is my first official role, I guess, in the industry. And like Will said, everyone in the company has their own specialisms and particular interests. So mine is the user-centered and human factors side of things, which I'm sure we'll touch on further along in the presentation. Something I probably didn't expect to be doing when I was studying, but has worked really well, is the split role between the design and the marketing side of things. I think inherently you can just assume, you know, a course or a degree leads you to a specific role and kind of tunnel yourself to that role a little bit. Whereas, you know, I guess through studying and through extracurricular activity, I recognised that a design or creative degree can actually be really beneficial to a number of roles.
Okay.
Yeah, so hopefully between us we can bring some insight into our different pathways, I guess.
Yeah.
So just a little bit about Horton Design. As a company, HD started about 25 years ago, designing aerospace equipment and parts of cars and various bits and bobs. And in about 2012, the company started moving towards medical a little bit more. To now where we're at, we do about 90% medical and healthcare work. We try and keep our foot in the door in other sectors as well, because it helps broaden our knowledge and understanding and bring fresh ideas back to the medical sector, I guess. So our typical clients are large pharmaceutical companies who have maybe developed a new drug or a molecule, and they need a way of delivering that drug into the body. So the COVID vaccine, for example, the likes of Pfizer developed the vaccine or the drug, and then they'd reach out to the likes of HD to do the design and development work of the syringe or the injector or whatever they're intending to use. I think the nice thing about us here at HD is that we can do individual parts of the design process for our clients, or we can do full end-to-end concept kind of through to manufacture. Due to confidentiality, we're a little bit limited as to what we can show you, but Will's going to chat through a couple of projects that we're allowed to share.
So some of you may be aware of this product as it's on the market, some of you may not, but this is essentially a door handle, but it's a smart door handle for entry into domestic properties. So we designed this a few years ago, about 5 years ago now. It was a little bit before my time at HD. So my colleague Dale helped design this. He was one of the leading industrial designers on the team for this. But now this is you know, a gleaming success in the eyes of Yale. It's been awarded with a whole trophy room worth of awards for its industrial design, for its clever use of electronics, and sort of its robust mechanical engineering as well. So HD were tasked by Yale to design the exterior elements, the industrial design, the touch points of the handle, and then Yale were concentrating on the the clever bits and bobs that goes in it and makes it a truly smart and effective product. So for this project, we used a lot of quite basic but really effective and rapid techniques and software packages in order to design this handle. So we used Adobe Illustrator in order to generate some of the artwork aesthetics that you see on the left there. So those were just essentially really simple semi-rounded rectangles, and then you just apply a gradient filter and different layers on top of it, and you start to build up this this picture of door handles without having to yet jump into CAD, because we find that the earlier you jump into CAD, the CAD being computer-aided design, such as like SolidWorks or something like that. The earlier you jump into CAD, the more restrictive you are with your tools and your creative ability. Don't get me wrong, some people are really creative with and really highly technical and capable with CAD, but you have to be really good at the program in order to fully utilize those functions. But yeah, this was a great product and a great project to work on with Yale. You know, they've since come back and asked us to work on several more projects, but unfortunately we're not allowed to disclose those projects, but this is the one that we are allowed to present to you. So, you know, quite interesting that we're using sort of non-standard, non-typical product design packages in order to design products. So that was designed in Illustrator, and then we designed the 3D model in CAD once we got that aesthetic signed off by the board. Here's another product that we've worked on for a company called Seward. This is a relatively small desktop scientific piece of equipment. It's technically a food blender, but not in the way that you know it. Essentially, you put like a carrier bag of food into the top like letterbox sort of hole cut out, and with the paddles, the shiny paddles, sort of labelled with an L and the R on the left-hand side of that image, they emulsify that foodstuff material in that plastic bag to allow it to be broken down within a solution, and then for that solution to be sent off for further scientific study to make sure it doesn't have any sort of dangerous bacteria in, and it allows food companies to do like batch control and verify that the food that's been sent out is safe for use. So we were tasked with not only the aesthetic industrial design, but also anything related to the user in terms of human factors. We were also in charge of the design for manufacture of it's predominantly all plastic injection molded covers on there. So there was a lot of knowledge that we had to learn about the manufacturing techniques and design requirements for using that technology. But underneath that as well, it's jam-packed full of technology, sensors and motors and various metal brackets. There's a lot of fabrication items in there. So so it's a really interesting project that we worked on with that one. Here we've got another project that we most recently worked on that we're allowed to sort of disclose. This was a company called Cyrus Diagnostics. So during the initial COVID outbreak in 2020, a client approached us and asked us to develop a system, a sort of technology platform or technology demonstrator to really simplify the user interaction regarding and user steps regarding blood sampling when it comes to COVID-19 detection or HIV or any other sort of symptom detection. So with this, we managed to, like all you guys are familiar now with the user steps required for the sampling of COVID-19, maybe not so for blood sampling. but it's really complicated. There's a lot of it, like individual packages that you've got to unwrap and various things like that. And we actually managed to simplify the user steps down from, I think it was like 9 or 10, right down to 3. So this was a really, really fun project to work on. We not only designed the exteriors and the user interaction, but also the tiny little plastic machinery that goes on the inside to automate that process for the user.
I know that when I was studying or doing my undergrad, I definitely was intimidated by the word engineer. But I think it's important to note that I guess the whole of design and engineering is on a spectrum. And the important thing is just, to have an awareness of the entire process. But in reality, not everyone knows all the ins and outs of everything. So it's important I guess, know your strengths, play on your strengths, but also identify your weaknesses and be able to call on others kind of as and when you need them throughout a project. I think kind of when you leave uni, there might be a bit of an unrealistic expectation or pressure on yourself to know and be able to do everything. But in reality, when you enter industry, everyone's super understanding and there's plenty of training involved. And I guess you learn so much off your colleagues as well. Kind of build up your awareness over time.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, you think you're done when you graduated from university, and then first day in your job, it's a bit of a learning curve with the amount of learning that you've still yet got to do. But everyone's in the same position when you start out.
So we touched on specialisms a little bit, but here at HD we're quite a small company. So although everyone gets involved in everything, everyone in the team has got their specific specialisms as well, whether that's things they're just generally interested in or things they're super talented at. And I guess that's a real short list in reality. Because there are all sorts of things you can specialise in, and I guess throughout your education and career you start to recognise where your strengths are and what you enjoy. So I think it's important to kind of get involved in all of those different elements as and when you can. Before, I guess, putting pressure on yourself to decide on one or two or whatever it is. So for example, some of the team here, they're really strong at creating visuals and using T-shot and rendering up ideas, whereas others, they're really strong on using simulation software to test stresses and really analyze designs. I don't think it matters what course you're doing as well. They're all kind of creative outlets and various roles you could maybe possibly think about entering, rather than, I guess, being tunnel visioned into, an umbrella of product design, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. To touch upon what Amber just mentioned as well, even when it comes to Keyshot, if you're aware of it, it's a rendering program. Sometimes we've had to make mini product movies, so there's a lot of understanding there in regards to animation and video editing and things like that. And it's all about painting that picture, and it's got to be pleasing when you present that to your audience. So when you've got a really skilled person in the team that can do that, it really helps a lot. We included this slide in here just to showcase the sort of career progression from an insight perspective, from when you start off, from graduating from university, or starting off in your design position. You don't necessarily need to graduate from university to be in this role, but there's a difference between what's expected of the industry from a design role versus an engineering role. It's a lot more structured in the engineering role because it needs to be from a legality perspective as well, especially when you have to sign off very important pieces of equipment and machinery to prevent injury from users, people that are going to use it, such as large rotating motors or anything like that, or a crane. That all needs to be signed off by an appropriate engineer, qualified engineer. So that's why there's a little bit of more of a structured system to it. But essentially, from university, you start off as a product design graduate, progress onto a product designer after a couple of years, and then after several years, you might then progress on to become a senior product designer. Senior doesn't relate to a person's age; it just relates to that person's technical capability. So the years that are shown on the left of the images, they're just there for reference. It is possible to become senior in only a few years if you're super talented or super good at your job. And then it's quite important to know as well that there's a lot of opportunity for split roles or to migrate and sidestep into different positions as well, or to have like split roles like myself and Amber, more involved in business development activities alongside the core activity of being a product designer. But then you can start being involved in management of projects or management of people. Or if you don't want to go down that route and you absolutely love product design, you can go down the route of becoming a product design principal or a product design expert, essentially. Where you don't have to worry about managing people or projects. You can just focus on your own projects, really. And then usually within typical company structures, there's heads of design or design. There's design managers, and then there's heads of design, and then there might even be a design director. And then on top of the design director, there might be a managing director or a CEO or something like that. There are opportunities in the mechanical engineering field to become chartered. You can become chartered at any position, but there is a sort of minimum level of expertise, of experience that you need to have. Some of the guys in our team at HDR are chartered, and you didn't used to be able to become chartered in the product design field, but now you can. I think through the IED, you can pursue that chartership if you choose to be. That just opens up doors in regards to networking opportunities. If you need to start sourcing for I don't know, you want to work at a different company or something like that, or you want to grow your skills internally, there's a lot of really useful training material out there for those seeking it. Design consultancy. So, as myself and Amber have mentioned, we work for Horton Design. Horton Design is a design consultancy, and for those of you that aren't too sure of what that exactly means, there's usually two types of companies that you'll work at: an in-house design company or a design consultancy. So an in-house design company, I don't know, for example, I've got like a icon of a factory there and a phone and then a group of people, and then you're sort of only focusing on that core piece of technology or that type of product. Whereas with a design, and at larger firms, it might be different. You might have different divisions and subdivisions that may work on different types of products, but that's how it usually works. Versus a design consultancy, such as HD and myself and Amber, we can work for, I don't know, like a smartphone manufacturer or someone like that, or a fashion company. And then the next month we may work for the aerospace industry or automotive or medical or robotics and production. And it really sort of pushes your ability and capability and widens your knowledge really into those different sectors. And there's a lot of time where, I don't know, someone in the automotive industry is really stuck on a problem. And because you've worked on a medical job before in the past, there might be a really obvious solution that you may be able to pinch from that medical experience and apply it to the automotive industry. So it just really helps you out and grows your sort of own knowledge of engineering. So what is it like to work at HD or a consultancy or be a designer? It's typically, every day is completely different, so it's really hard to define this, but usually it's about understanding the challenge, converting that challenge into an opportunity of, it's really difficult, let's see if we can use this solution or this solution to get around it. And so you're doing a lot of problem solving, a lot of sketching, a lot of calculating, trying to figure out different forces or calculating the cost of different things. A lot of prototyping and model making, using whatever is available to hand, really, whatever best conveys that idea. CADing, 3D printing we use because it's just so easy to do it. And then manufacturing as well, when you need to actually manufacture something out of metal or something like that. A lot of testing. Usually the first sort of product that we design isn't strong enough, or especially if we're doing a design sprint, it's really hard to sort of adequately engineer something. So there's a lot of testing that needs to be done, a lot of presenting and delivery to clients or to your line manager.
So I'm sure a lot of you will be familiar with a design process of some sort, whether it's the Design Council's Double Diamond or the uni's internally developed process. But here at Horton Design, we've kind of tweaked and refined that process over the years and over a range of different projects. So clients can kind of come to us and dip in and out of the process at any stage if they've got a particular, a really niche problem or one kind of focused task they need doing. Or like we said before, they can come to us with a blank sheet of paper and we can take it all the way through to manufacture, I guess. And it's probably similar to any other process, it's quite important to point out that it is a process of iteration, and it can be a pretty long process at times as well. So on some of our medical projects, it's rather than in uni, for example, where it might be weeks or months, we're usually looking at months, if not years, probably. Yeah. So everything is really niche, and I guess there's a lot of rigor as well in our medical projects. So it's really important that we do work our way through this process and document everything properly.
Yeah, absolutely. Documentation is key in this. So yeah, the phases are broken down into 3 phases for our product design sector. First phase is quite short and rapid, sort of similar to what the product design students are working on. Phase 2 is all about prototyping and iteration and really honing that idea. Phase 3 is all about production, getting involved with injection molding manufacturers and production specialists and things like that. And going on to the shop floor and meeting and greeting various people, ensuring that the product can be made at volume. So we put this sort of slide together just to illustrate, where we came from. So when I started at high school in 2005, did 2 years at college, did a Crest Award, which is like a scientific sort of student program. Worked at Comet. Comet is like Curry's, like a technology consumer electronics store. Really interested in like Apple's design and selling Apple products like the old iPods and MacBooks and things like that. Worked at McDonald's for 3 years whilst I was at university. So did that at the weekends and over the summer and summer break, and just to afford petrol in my car and things like that, really. And then reached out to a load of, so during university, reached out to a load of manufacturers in the second year summer holidays. Tried to get engineering experience and work experience, and Renishaw offered me a position. I can talk about that a bit more in a Q&A if you'd like to learn more about that. Worked and then left Renishaw and worked at Horton Design. Whilst at Horton Design, you do various other sort of means of training. So during COVID, did a lot of SolidWorks training to get up to speed, and also did the Alan MacArthur Foundation training. Oh, and whilst at uni, the lecturers offered the position of doing a sketching competition with Super Yacht UK down in London. So sent 2 students, myself and Richard, down to London, Excel Boatyard, and did a sketching competition. So never say no to an opportunity. And then also on the side, not anymore, I used to do a bit of a 3D printing service just to get a bit of extra pocket money. Here you can see, so top left is the sketching competition for the yacht, for the super yachts. Never sketched a super yacht before, and then did this competition, came second. I don't know if you can see my mouse, it's me there. And then to the right of that is the graduate show that stood in front of my product that I designed, a recycling 3D printer, because I was interested in 3D printing. And then worked for a company called Renishaw, who make industrial metal 3D printers. And then was involved in the first sort of teaser reveal of the machine. It's on YouTube for the René M500M. That just spawned from doing a keyshot render randomly whilst at work, and then they had never seen keyshot before, never seen that. Something, you know, a software that I learned whilst at university. They'd loved it, and then that quickly evolved into a massive engineering campaign for the reveal of that machine. So that was really a really cool moment. Working on the shop floor at Renishaw. I'm here at the back here. This is ran in from university on day release and then came to work, and this was the first fully built up machine. It's the next gen machine in works that's now released onto the market, and then a picture of me at PhD presenting something to someone. I'm not sure what that is. Yeah, Amber?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say it took me a long time to realise what I wanted to do. So similar to Will, I've always had kind of part-time jobs here and there, working in cafes, bars and whatnot. But I realised, although that was super useful, it wasn't really helping me make my mind up in terms of what I wanted to do as a career moving forward. So in high school, did the usual thing of going to a primary school and work experience. Realised I definitely didn't enjoy doing that. But throughout school, although I was a bit of an all-rounder, I really enjoyed the creative subjects. So there was a company local to us who was developing the first hydrogen-powered car. So I thought I'd go there on a bit of work experience, just to test the waters and see if I was heading down the right track. Although that was super cool, super interesting, I'm not all that technical, and I realised how many technicalities there were with regards to building a car, and it wasn't all just about making it pretty. So then I thought perhaps kind of going down the architecture route would be a little bit better for me. Again, went on a work experience and managed to get a part-time job in an architectural firm, and soon realised that wasn't quite like Grand Designs either, and that was really super technical and quite office-based. So around that time, I was kind of moving from high school into sixth form, and kind of that was a bit of a crucial time for me as well, because I ended up going through a couple of surgeries and started to use a medical device myself. Sounds proper cliche, but I started recognising, I guess, the importance of medical devices and those that were designed well, because I'm sure you can all appreciate that a lot of them, you know, although they help us health-wise, they don't look great. So at the end of school, kind of when I was doing my uni application, I decided to withdraw my architectural application and apply for product design instead. So throughout uni, I knew I kind of had this interest in healthcare. So although I kind of gave my projects in uni my all, I did everything I could to try and get extra experience on the side in various medical companies. So I did one with a startup called Ostique, where I did a lot of focus groups, patient research, that sort of thing. And that really helped me realise that I really liked that front end of the process and the patient side of things. At the same time, I kind of built up a bit of a following on social media and was doing various things with the BBC, ITV, Lad Bible, lots of different media. So I knew I kind of enjoyed, I guess, the marketing and media side of things too. So I went to a couple of companies that fall under the Ekin Healthcare group, and I was able to, I guess, dip my toes in the water with a few different areas of those companies. So I was able to do a bit on their marketing side and a bit on their new product development. And that kind of confirmed to me finally that I enjoyed those areas. So while all this was going on, I was obviously coming to the end of my degree, starting to worry about getting a job, what next. It was only in 2020, so we're in a similar situation as we are now in terms of COVID. So I guess I panicked a bit and applied for a master's. But thankfully, due to, I guess, everything I'd been doing on social media and with different healthcare companies, I was really, really lucky in that a couple of companies actually approached me with job offers. And that's something I'd never expected and probably wouldn't have never had if I hadn't done all those other things outside of uni. So I actually decided to come to Horton Design, and I'm really pleased with that decision because, as Will said, coming to a consultancy has allowed me to have experience in so many different sectors, doing lots of different roles, and I guess learning about lots of different elements of, I guess, our own company and industry as well as lots of other companies. So for me, that's been really helpful. Yeah, so just a few pictures like Will. There's not much I can show in terms of work, but I guess focusing on the stuff I've been up to outside of work that have kind of helped me get my role at HD. So I started my own podcast as a university project in lockdown, and I was lucky to gain a bit of sponsorship for that. So that kind of kept me going financially and gave me something to do when I finished uni, and that blip between starting work. So that's something I really enjoyed, and that kind of taught me a load of different skills digitally and I guess communication skills, organisation and all that sort of stuff. And I think the great thing about design is that you can kind of relate it to anything you enjoy to some degree. So if you enjoy, I don't know, a specific sport, you could always reach out to places that develop the equipment or the clothing that goes with that sport, or I don't know, cooking, for example, you could do baking utensils all the way through to kitchen design. So I think that's been really crucial for me, is really honing in on something I enjoy and then pairing my degree in design skills with it, I guess. Yeah, and as Will said, just taking opportunities in university. So I went on a few trips abroad. So there's a picture there of a trip we went on to Namibia in Africa to introduce design into the curriculum in the primary schools there, because they were literally just doing maths and farming. So that was great to see how much teaching them design changed their outlook on things. Yeah, and other cool bits and bobs. So saying yes to opportunities like speaking in the Welsh Government with a medical company, something I would have been really worried and scared to do previously, but you've just got to, I guess, push yourself out of your comfort zone and do those things. And in turn, the rewards really pay off. And then, oh yeah, just in terms of my work at HD, so I've touched on doing a split role between the marketing on the front end of the design. So in terms of the marketing side, I guess I just wanted to put emphasis on how much design really does inform the marketing side of things as well, and other roles beyond. So since I've been at the company, we've developed a new website, we've had articles published in various engineering magazines, and we've been able to really increase our reach on social media and do lots of new things really just in the last year or so, and hopefully we'll carry on building in that way. Yeah, and then in terms of, I guess, the design side, I've been able to work with clinicians, get involved in brainstorming sessions, I guess that whole spectrum of the process.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff that we can't share due to confidentiality reasons. Been working on a lot of really cool projects recently. So it's a shame, but I don't know. Maybe if you come into Horton Design, maybe we can sort of share that with you under NDA. But We just listed out a few other things that we wish we sort of knew earlier after university or first entering the role. So one of the key things that we got taught at uni is in the first year is obviously sketching is really important, and it absolutely is. It's your first sort of method of conveying an idea in your head onto a piece of paper for someone else to understand. But you don't have to be an artist or a first-class illustrator. As long as you convey an idea in simple line strokes, that's all that's required. Understanding fasteners from an engineering perspective and understand the definitions is really important too. Literally the nuts and bolts that hold things together. How you can potentially hide those things. You don't see a car all fit together externally with nuts and bolts everywhere. It's all hidden quite cleverly. Understanding the design process that we spoke about earlier as well. Understanding, as Amber mentioned, that there's an iterative process within that. It's not just idea, work your magic, make a load of money. There's a lot of going back and forth with certain ideas, and ideas can be quite fragile. So you've really got to sort of be quite gentle with them and explore them to the nth degree to see whether it is feasible or not, and not just stop at the first hurdle that you come to. Take loads of notes whenever you're speaking to anyone. The smallest of things and the smallest amount of feedback is really crucial. When you're in a design office, especially in your first year, try not to put headphones on. I think I did that when I first started at Renishaw and sort of missed out on a lot of conversation that's really, really important to understanding things. I don't know, there might have been a conversation that happened to the other side of the room about some test rig and risk assessment. And if I was listening into that conversation, not earwigging, but just generally absorbing your surroundings, it might be useful for when you have to then do that yourself. As we've said, never say no to anything. Don't turn down any opportunity. I think in your first week here, we asked you to go and have a look at some 3D printing company, didn't we? And you had to go and take some pictures and things like that. So you learned a bunch from that. Materials, manufacturing processes, try and understand that as much as you can. Every idea that you come up with has got to be made at the end of the day. Don't let your confidence cripple you. So I lacked quite a lot of confidence when I first started off. I was quite shy and quite intimidated by the rest of the experienced guys in the team. Just try and forget about that and just realize that everyone else is a person. Everyone else had a starting point one day, and just be you. There's a lot of sitting down in a design job, especially, I don't know, when you're working on CAD for months on end. So try and get up and have an active lifestyle or some sort of physical hobby or something. There's a lot of stuff that you might realise in your hobby that might be relevant to design, like what you're on about with like cooking or anything like that, or I know doing a sport. Just everything's been designed, so you just got to look at the world with that design eye. So that's it. That's all we've got for our presentation. So if you've got any questions, that would be absolutely fantastic. I'll stop sharing our screen.
Okay, we do have one question. Do you need a master's degree to become chartered in your profession?
No, absolutely not. You don't even need a degree to become chartered. It helps. It definitely does help because it's like an agreed standard baseline of understanding, and you essentially get assessed when you apply to your chartership sort of assessment. And if you've got like a certificate of a degree or a master's degree, it's sort of like the assessor knows that you've got a baseline of curriculum sort of understanding. But no, it's not a requirement. It just helps.
Okay, great, thank you. There's another question actually, it's just come in. What has been your favourite product that you have designed, produced?
Oof.
If you're allowed to say, that is.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot of stuff that we've designed that's confidential that we're not allowed to disclose. The COVID diagnostic product that we showed earlier, that was a really fun project. We were really constrained time-wise as well on that project, so that added like another element to sort of design to. So you're not only designing for human factors requirements and manufacture, but you're also constrained by the project duration as well, which just added like another dimension to it all. But yeah, it's great working on medical projects because at the end of the day, you're trying to help people out and you're trying to improve people's lives. So
I think what I would say about especially like your final university projects is just to not just do them for the sake of doing them, and you need to hand them in to really, you know, think about the direction you want to be going in and what you enjoy ultimately. Because, you know, with those projects you can do whatever you want and they can, I guess, be a really good springboard into work or just kind of advertising yourself in terms of work.
Yeah.
And you can actually really enjoy them if, you know, if you choose an area that you're interested in.
No, that's really good advice. I think it then becomes very rewarding, doesn't it? And I think particularly you're involved in the health sector so much. That must be hugely rewarding when you see one of your products being used by someone who's been ill, or that must be, you know, really, really fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we've got some more questions coming in. What's your favourite part of the design process, and how do you improve on your weaknesses?
I think in terms of improving on your weaknesses, I think like we said in our presentation, not to hold yourself back or kind of shy away from things, even if you know they're not your best areas, to just go for it and give it a go. No one's judging or anything like that. And that's the way you learn ultimately, is by trying. And I've definitely found that being at HD, I think sometimes you can kind of stay in your comfort zone a little bit too much. So I guess putting yourself out there, you know, maybe getting involved with projects you might not initially think you're interested in or are good at. And, you know, similarly with tasks, just helping out, even if it's, like Will said, just listening in on conversations. Yeah, I think just putting yourself out there and absorbing as much as you can really helps as a starting point. And then in terms of, what was the other question, sorry?
What's your favourite process?
Yes, how do you improve on your weaknesses, I guess, the things that perhaps you're less strong at?
Have you got anything else to add, Will?
The first thing is to identify your weaknesses, identify your strengths and weaknesses. Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. Last year when I was mentoring Adam and Victor, the two product design students, one of the first things that I asked them is, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and asked them to really identify those. And you know, sat down with those guys and listed out like a competency matrix of all the different things that a typical product designer does, such as like the different skill sets, like graphic design skill, presentation skill, communications, and then, you know, you're made aware of all these different factors that you've got to sort of develop your own skills on, and then you can sort of be honest with yourself and score those. I don't know, 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, 10 being really good, 1 being lacking confidence or needing training. At least when you've got that structured process, it's like a bit of an engineering sort of attitude to it, just apply numbers to it. But it really does help map out your strengths and weaknesses. And then at least you can put a plan together of how to develop those skills, like communication. I don't know, the only best way to really get better at communication is to present a lot more in front of a lot more people. Practice presentation, talking in front of the mirror, that sort of thing, doing a lot of like Teams calls and Zoom calls, being confident talking to your lecturers and strangers and manufacturers, that sort of thing. That was, I'd say communication was probably one of my weaknesses when I first started off. So, you know, you just have to have a bit of a talk into yourself and try and grow that confidence as you grow with experience.
I think having the confidence as well to like admit you've got weaknesses and tell people what they are, because I know like at HD as an employer, you know, we're quite open and forward thinking in terms of training. So like in January we had 4 or 5 days of whole team training, and they were in topics that the team had identified as weaknesses or areas they wanted to learn more on. So, you know, no one's a jack of all trades, and
No.
you know, some of those training sessions I might not think I'll need to apply, but at least I've got an awareness of them now. So when, you know, someone rings the office, I can talk about injection molding, for example. Yeah, so everything comes in useful.
Yeah,
That's really great advice. We've got quite a few questions. I suppose in terms of like work experience, someone's asking how best is it to reach out to a company for work experience, and what's the sort of the best chance for you to do that?
I'll let you go. You're probably better at it than I was.
I think persistence is probably the key. So like Ekin I talked about, I actually contacted them when I was in my first year of uni, and I didn't actually get to visit, let alone work with them, until my 3rd year. So that was a good 2 years of trying. And in the meantime, I guess, doing work and projects that helped with, I guess, reaching back out to them. So I guess not to be put down by, you know, someone declining you or you know, I think here we'd love to have everyone in who asks for experience, but sometimes it's just not feasible, and you've just got to understand that it's nothing personal. It's nothing personal, and you know, genuinely, and I guess for the most part, people do want to help where they can. So maybe if they can't have you in the office, perhaps you can, you know, just suggest a half an hour, 10-minute call with them instead, and kind of build it up from there. And I think for me, there are so many companies beyond those that you know of, just using the likes of LinkedIn and whatnot to, you know, identify the same but different. That can be really helpful too.
Yeah. The sort of techniques that I used, I remember back in the day, the obvious one was just like sending emails out to a load of local companies. I think I had identified that I wanted to work potentially at a manufacturing company. So I reached out to a load of like fabricators, injection molders, even like joinery places, just to get that hands-on practical experience. And ring people up as well, and try and research a little bit about the company beforehand, so you just don't go into it not knowing anything about the company. I think if you research, it shows that you've got at least a minimum level of understanding about their current operations, and you might even be able to identify a business opportunity for them, or at least show how you can add value with them employing you. That's quite a key thing. And I think I realized back in the day, the worst thing that we can do is just say no. It's not going to hurt you. If they do turn around and say no, it's probably, like Amber says, it's probably because of capacity or capability, or I don't know, for the company, not for yourself. So if they say no, it's like, okay, didn't work that time, let's go to another company and try that.
I think, like we said before as well, there are, you know, sometimes there are multiple departments within companies and multiple different roles that might, relate back to design. You can try them all. You don't have to directly go for like a product design department or head of. You could maybe try, I don't know, graphics, marketing, whatever it is, just as a foot in the door kind of thing. And then once you're there, you can kind of try that out, see if you like it, and then try and find your way to something that's more suitable.
But there's really something in that key message of being persistent, because you, Amber, wouldn't be sitting there doing a job that you absolutely love if you hadn't have continued to be persistent to apply to that company. So, you're like a classic example right there for everybody to, just keep trying, I guess.
Totally. And I know there's loads of questions, but just to add this in as well, it seems to me it's not just about work experience and placements, because you were quite proactive in setting up a podcast, and Will, you taking part in competitions as well. So it's not just about the work experience, although that is really important too. It's anything that you can do to improve your skills.
Yeah, and you can really harness like the likes of social media. So if you've got a hobby page or a design page, there's no harm in starting to tag the companies that you want to be at in those images or posts or whatever, and just try and get noticed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
How are we doing for questions? So another question, where do you see yourself within 10 years' time?
Cool.
Crikey, tricky question. Probably honestly, still doing what I'm doing right now. I love doing it. I don't see any sort of requirement for change or anything like that. I think in 10 years' time, with experience and things like that, I think my role may naturally progress into more of a senior position or something along those lines, or I don't know, some sort of management position maybe. But yeah, still being a product designer, still being involved, still trying to wrap my head around a client's their world and their challenges that they're having, and trying to provide really effective solutions. Yeah, if you love what you do, you don't really feel the need for change.
Yeah, I think like I said, in my timeline, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I still don't have like I guess really niche specialism. I'm still trying to find that, and I don't think there's any harm in that really. So who knows in 10 years.
Do you have any advice on building a portfolio and how to increase and develop your potential to attract job opportunities? Would you have any advice sort of in terms of portfolio?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's a lot of there's websites that we use at work for design inspiration, like Pinterest or Behance or things like that. And on Behance, there's a lot of like student submissions of their portfolios. So just have a look at those, see where the sort of like bar is set in regards to quality of those portfolios. But try and tailor your portfolio to focus on your specialism and your interest, but also for like maybe one or two projects in your portfolio. But the wider portfolio needs to cover a lot of areas that we've spoke about in this meeting, because you don't know really what companies will accept a job offer for you. So it'd be good if you had something in there that was like sports equipment related or consumer electronics related, and I don't know, not just like furniture or something like that. Try and mix and match it all up, and try and include some medical related content in there, because you never really know. Your portfolio is an extremely well developed marketing book, essentially, or a website link or whatever. Just make sure that it really conveys your best capability. Don't include anything in there with like spelling mistakes or anything like that, because it may just get dismissed on that fact alone. You know, a person that I previously used to work with said that your portfolio is going to be judged on your worst piece in your portfolio. So always ensure that every single page just tries to raise the bar and tries to show you at your best.
I think put that extra half an hour into tweaking it to suit the job or company that you're applying to as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't go unnoticed.
Definitely. Try and show your progress as well. Sometimes a lot of portfolios that we've seen for people applying here, it's just like just shows the final product at the end of it, like a rendered visual or something that looks quite nice. That masks a lot of the design process, and we want to figure out how you arrived at that end goal, not the end goal itself. It's just how did you navigate all of the tricky situations and product design dead ends, and did you explore potentially prototyping it with tools that you have to hand, or did you reach out to manufacturers and understand their requirements, or reach out to users and gain feedback and things like that, really, rather than the final polished product.
Sorry, Greg, go on.
Yeah, sorry. I've got a few more questions coming in. So another one, if you could develop a product that can help the world, what would it be and why?
Big question.
Oh,
That's a big one. Testing you today.
I think what's amazing to see is, without curbing the question, is the ideas some people come to us with. And I guess you can become quite tunnel visioned in your own kind of world and space, I guess, and not realise that there are other problems going on that people have. So it's always really interesting when people, I guess, with a fresh pair of eyes or from another sector come to us with a brief or an inquiry that's, you know, something we've never considered before. That's always really interesting.
Yeah. Just trying to think of the products that I design. Maybe something that's a worldwide issue that's experienced en masse or affects every single one of us. We've got a massive issue regarding climate change and plastic pollution, the rise of CO2 in the atmosphere. Something along those sort of lines I'd be really interested to work on, or something related to I don't know, respiratory products or something like that, potentially trying to help people and help the world out at the same time. Yeah, there's a lot of plastic that we're conscious of the output of the plastic that we produce, of being ambassadors of product design and considered design experts for our clients. So trying to mitigate those risks of plastic output would be good.
They were big questions. Okay, just a few more to finish off, really. I'm not sure whether you can answer this one, actually. And I've got a few tips myself as to how to answer, but I'll just put it to you. Are you also involved in the jewellery industry, and what is the pathway for the jewellery industry? Is that something that you're involved with at all?
No, we're not. No, but we are involved in the fashion industry with one of our projects, but not in the jewellery industry. No.
No, that's fine. The person that asked that question, what would be really great actually is to go onto the Creative Futures webpage, because we had Lindsay Harris come in, who is a jewellery maker, designer maker, so she works for herself. So that would be one option. We are trying to arrange another guest speaker to come in a few weeks' time, who works for a major accessories brand as well. So she would be a great person to listen to. We haven't quite finalised the details, so look on the webpage and book on for that session.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's obviously loads to learn, even just between different industries like that. Like I'm sure we can learn a lot about how to form and shape different metals and how to hold things in really clever but simplistic ways, such as like stones and diamonds and really precious things that you don't want to just drop off on rings. But yeah, sounds interesting. Thank you.
And the final question, yes, so the question is, how could your skills be applied in day-to-day living? So I suppose this is a question about how transferable are your design skills to other things, which was kind of in your presentation a little bit, talking about design specialisms and how you branched out into marketing, business development.
I think one of my personal skills that's developed myself as a result of my job is my organisation skills, organisation and communication, and being able to prioritise and do like little critical path analysis of various personal projects that I might have going on, like like home renovation stuff. Being able to organise, when someone's going to come in and do some renovation work, or we had the garden done last summer, and I did a whole CAD model of the garden. So there was a lot of like skills learned from a profession to do that. Costing analysis, understanding the total cost of things as well is really useful.
Yeah, I think it depends what your interests outside of work are as well, because like we said, design ultimately can relate back to everything. So like I said, I really enjoy social media and doing different things with different television programs and whatnot, and my design skills impact that massively, and they're a blessing really to all of those things. A bit too much sometimes, you can be a bit too picky about things. Yeah, and even when it comes down to like organising, like Will said, organising yourself and organising financials, even things you learn at work, you can apply back to day-to-day stuff or hobbies or whatever it is.
Brilliant. Wow, I think we've come to the end of the questions. Thank you everybody for posting a question. It was great to hear all your thoughts about Will and Amber's talk. And we've slightly gone over time actually, because we're also interested in the work that you do. Can I just say a massive thank you to you both for coming in, taking your time to speak to us today. I found the presentation really thorough and just packed full of useful information. So yeah, just want to say a big thank you for joining us today. And for all of you that are watching, please do tune in again for other Creative Futures talks. Next week, we've got Kaylee Ditchburn, who's coming in to talk to us about art therapy. So another really interesting way that you can apply your art and design skills. Okay, that's all from us. So thank you all and have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.